This is the Fifth Estate Winning Headlines, your media police post. In this segment, we summarize some of the headlines that you might have missed this morning. But we also take a look at the political pieces that we call cartoons in this country. Today is the 14th of March, 2019, and I am 2J.
I am 2M.
And I am Miss K, your host. Again, in case you missed it, this is Winning Headlines. Let's take a look at today's headlines. The Star, JSC starts hearings against 11 judges. The Standard, 2022 plan for Uhuru Raila to form alliance. And finally, Daily Nation, shame of teachers who prey on pupils. I think we're back to regular programming. It's very rare for the media houses to agree on what the headline should be. And
that's true.
Let's start with the day.
Yeah, shame of teachers who prey on pupils.
I find this a very sad story.
It is very sad, but do you think that we're getting to a point where this sad defilement of students is becoming normalized?
Why would you say it's becoming normalized? This is an individual, singular story. I don't see a normalization.
I just feel that sometimes we see these headlines and we stop feeling the feelings that we're meant to have. That we stop having anger or sadness and we just say, oh, this is so sad, I don't want to.
Okay, well, I can agree on this one point. I think it's Hannah Arendt speaking on the banality of evil, that if you do something over and over again, you stop seeing the wrongness in it and you start accepting it as being a normal part of your society. So if you're saying that by us putting these headlines out and saying that teachers who prey on pupils is such a recurring theme in our education system, that it is that we are actually complacent about it and okay with it, and even in the story saying that some parents and some school administrations allow for it to happen either by getting inducements or by just allowing their students to quietly get out of the school system, then maybe. But I still do think that it is an important story because if you have individuals who have preyed on children, and they are known and they are fired.
They should be on a file, on a list.
And they should be in court. Just being fired by TSC is
not enough. True. But what does this say about the state of our education system right now as we wind up? This is what, the fourth story since the beginning of this year?
It's like the third story,
Yeah, we had the story on the birth certificates.
Birth
certificates, students can't have their exams. The procurement of books, the drugs in school, and then now
it's actually
teachers preying on students. This is...
I don't know, something to watch. The education sector is not doing
that note,
well.
On the Daily Nation, I'd like to pull out an insert, right? And I know we'll discuss this later on. Bonjour Kenya, as President Macron is in Kenya for 2 days.
Yes.
I'm going to toss this completely.
And I agree with you. And we will give a reason.
We will break this down.
Who is it by? It's called the French?
The French Chamber of Commerce, Kenya. I mean, right now we are being so heavily wooed by the French. There's something they're seeing in Kenya that they want to...
Wait, I agree completely. And before we toss both of them, let me give back our criteria so that we can understand why we're tossing them. We have a 3-part criteria that we use to break down the headlines for you. We ask ourselves 3 questions. Is the headline topical or is it speculative? Is it groundbreaking or is it repetitive? And finally, is it thoughtful or just plain lazy? And I'm sorry,
Macron, no.
That has to go.
We respect you, he's a president, but
how do you
it's
call
true.
him?
Macron.
Macron.
Not macaroni, as you like to say, but yes, we toss this one.
And although this story is sad, I think we toss this headline.
We toss the
story is valid and it is very sad. The fact that those teachers are not, the report does not give us a list of arrests and a list of perpetrators who have been
conclusions,
concluded because they were fired. The claims are valid.
We toss it. All right.
2022 plan for Uhuru Raila to form alliance and JSC starts hearings against 11 judges.
Should we start with the Standard?
Yeah, sure.
Okay, let's start with the Standard. 2022 plan.
Guys, let me tell you. If you did not watch today's U.N.E.P General Assembly, what happened? In my view, I think there was a huge protocol hitch.
What happened?
The Deputy President was seated 3rd row, right, behind the ministers, and he was seated next to the State House Comptroller. On his left, on his right, before I think Raila arrived, was the ADC.
So our Deputy President was sat next to the President's butler.
Whoa.
The ministers that serve under the presidency were
Under the
seated,
executive.
were seated in front of
the
him.
DP as well, because the executive is a
Yes.
two-pronged office.
They sat in front of him.
While another head of state, the president of France, was there as well.
Yes.
Yeah.
I think that was either very telling,
Yeah,
right?
it's embarrassing.
Or all round embarrassing. I think that it's all round embarrassing.
It's embarrassing.
I don't know whether it's a protocol hitch or whether it was,
It was on purpose.
calculated.
But let me ask
and
you
I don't know
guys-
whether it's calculated because of this headline.
Let me
because-
ask you guys this as we
Yes.
tie it into this headline.
Yeah.
Do you think the DP would knowingly, willingly, happily be put through these embarrassing situations? Because this is just one of many.
Right.
Without knowing that there's light at the end of the tunnel.
Two things, I think,
Yeah.
my thinking. Either he knows there's light at the end of the tunnel, which means someone is being played and it's not him.
Yes.
Therefore,
Yes.
he can quietly take it.
He'll take it and say it's
Or
fine.
if he is being targeted and attacked and
Yes.
he's quiet,
Yes.
he has a trump card.
Yes.
Up
Waiting to
his
play.
sleeve, and he's yet to play it. And he's waiting for the opportune time to play his card, but he's not taking it quietly.
Yes.
He's playing good cop, bad cop.
And
So
I-
how
He
do
gets
we-
his proxies
yeah.
to speak.
How do we
on
look
his
at
behalf.
those statements in light of
Let
this
me
headline?
let me tell you guys, and I actually agree with you. DP looks very composed. Even when you aggress him and that kind of thing, he comes out and he looks very
Yeah.
stately.
That's very true.
But how I know it is probably not a swindle, it is a statement by Rift Valley politicians, right? Them saying that the president has abandoned his deputy. If you see that, then there's some Cold War going,
And there's
going on.
also a very clear statement here that there will be, ODM will be on the ballot in 2022 in
22.
some form or another.
Yes.
And that there will be some form of alliance between ODM and Jubilee in a plan that
Yes.
is being directed
Yes.
by their principals.
And Orengo used very choice words, but
Yes.
he also spoke rather confidently. So
Yes, he did.
He was very careful in his words.
Yeah.
He says the president will play a
A
role,
role
I
in
think,
that
in that
formulation.
come 2022.
So I don't know, but this is a very telling headline, and
It is.
I must say,
Yeah.
though it is speculative,
Yeah.
I do think it is groundbreaking.
Yes.
Yesterday
Yes.
we said that the handshake was very vague.
Absolutely.
I think this is starting to
Playing on
clear
Yeah.
out, at least in the eyes of the public, a lot of that vagueness, a
Yes.
lot of that
I mean-
cloud of mystique that we didn't know what was happening behind the scenes. So I do agree with this.
Orengo says he spent 4 hours with the head of state talking about corruption.
discussing corruption for 4 hours.
And what else are they talking about?
Corruption, and he was very convinced that the president's
Yes.
war against
Corruption.
corruption is real.
It's an honest one.
Is genuine.
But isn't it in his best interest to believe that or to say that he believes
I think
it?
for this
So-
story, we'll just say very interesting.
Yeah.
But alamas are dukuduku, you know
Alamas
that?
are dukuduku.
3 dots to leave it. It's a continuing
But
story.
for a fine mind like Orengo to say what he said, I think there's something cooking.
Then we will
Yeah,
watch the story.
I'm cautious. So
Yeah.
I
Before we
parking
put it
bay?
in the parking bay, as we discuss
Yeah.
this, the STAR, JSC starts hearings against 11 judges. Accusations include corruption, unfair decisions, and outright bias.
So I had this question as I saw the headline.
Yeah.
Is it that all 11 judges were accused at the exact same time? Or is there some sort of backlog, or rather that this story has just started to come to light now?
I think there was some sort of backlog because you do know that the JSC has had its own internal wrangles.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They were in the paper a while back.
Right.
dealing
They were not
with-
constituted
Yeah.
for...
and they were not constituted fully. So now that they do have quorum and they're constituted properly, they can now address the pending issues that they had, things that had been brought before to them, because any person
Yeah.
is allowed,
Yes.
any professional organization should have a complaint mechanism.
Yes.
And the JSC is the first line of defense in any complaint you have against the
So
judiciary.
is this alarmist?
So I
headline
don't know.
that-
Yeah, it could be. It definitely is alarmist because they do say that it wasn't just 11. These are the 11 that they're dealing with.
Yeah.
The
Oh,
number
okay.
of complaints was higher. I think
Yeah.
they were in the 60s,
Yes.
and they dismissed a lot of those. And these are the ones that they want to look at, scrutinize.
Yes.
Doesn't mean that they have been found to be
Guilty,
viable
yeah.
or guilty, because if they were, then it would be a different story. We would be giving the president the notice and he would be setting up a tribunal.
Yeah.
But it does mean that these are the 11 that they're going to look at, scrutinize.
Yeah, but I have a question, probably even two. And as much as it is statutory for the JSC to question these judges, how is it that there are some elements within the JSC that have or are of questionable character, questioning those that they think are of questionable character?
We're also
I like-
speculating.
Are we?
Look at me.
I like that. I like that question.
How weird is that?
Yeah, it is.
Well, okay, if at all, the
Yeah.
JSC finds that these claims are valid and that they need to be investigated further by a tribunal,
Yes.
any member of that tribunal, the tribunal that makes the decision whether or not to remove that judge, cannot have been a member of the JSC, at
Yeah.
least for the
Okay.
past 3 years.
Okay.
So this is the first line of defense.
Yeah.
Unfortunately or unfortunately, the JSC in itself is
Yeah.
representative, so it
Yes.
has members from every facet of
The legal community.
The legal
community.
community, right?
Now, if that person who got into the JSCs has some impropriety that
Yes.
is presupposed of them,
Yes.
there was a mechanism through which they got there.
Yes.
So the Judges and Magistrates Association
Yes.
that put in their representatives.
Yes.
The Law Society of Kenya puts in its representative.
Yeah.
And how that person got through that
Yeah.
process,
Yeah.
we cannot question here.
You know, my second question is this. The JSC has chosen to do all these petitions at the same time. 3 of those petitions touch on 3 Supreme Court judges. These 3 Supreme Court judges
Are the very judges
who had a dissenting opinion during the presidential.
Are you trying to say that it is
Correlation,
a targeted?
causation, I don't know.
Is there correlation or causation? Are you saying that Joki Ndungu,
Yes, Jackton
Jack
Ojoan.
Tongo
I think it's curious.
Well, I do
curious.
agree. It
Yeah.
is curious.
It's curious.
But it's not impossible.
Yeah.
And like I said,
Yes.
any person can give a petition, though that is
Yes.
curious.
You know,
So are we
So what do we say about this?
speculation right now?
I think it's a speculative
And I think we
headline.
have to. The president has no power to really actually appoint a Supreme Court president, to put it like that. He's in a conveyor belt. He's just a rubber stamp. The process of reconstituting the Supreme Court is
We'll start
happening
again at the JSC.
It's happening right now, and it will happen in slow motion as we watch it.
Yeah. I think the last thing we wanted to mention
Yeah.
that has been on the headlines for quite a number of the papers
Yeah.
is the new IG.
Yes, actually, I do think that we did have a singular headline.
Yeah.
It's just that it wasn't the actual headline.
But it
Yes.
The
featured-
singular story that
Yeah.
featured on all 3.
Yeah.
And it was
The
that
appointment.
Uhuru appointed a new
Yeah.
spy, as they said it, to replace the Inspector General of Police, Boynet.
And he seems to have a liking for the spies.
Yes, he does.
And I
Yeah.
think it's a good thing.
Yes.
Whoever it is who is grooming them
Yes.
is doing a good job.
Yes, because we have the Director of Immigration, the DPP, EACC. There's another one I can't remember. All of these
Yes.
are former NIS servicemen.
Absolutely.
And what they are good at is doing their job. You never see them coming. And that is the whole point. If you're a good part of an investigative arm of government,
yes.
I shouldn't see you coming. You shouldn't be obvious in your investigative work.
Yeah.
You should now come to me when you have finalized your investigation.
Yeah.
And I
Exactly.
think
Yeah.
that that's a good place for them to start.
And then this
be choicy with your words.
Yeah.
Be punchy with your actions.
And this is probably a lesson to our friend DCI Kinoti.
That is very true.
You see, Uhuru is moving in silence. This man's name, Hilary Mutyambai, did not even
Appear,
feature
yeah.
in the nomination list of possible IGs, right?
Perhaps it featured in the list we were not privy to.
Yes,
Precisely.
that's possible.
All right? And yesterday I remember I was watching this man called Haji, DPP. Guy is fantastic, and he seems cold-blooded. He doesn't give
Clipped
you
answers.
Yeah, he gives you clipped answers. They call it staccato.
Yeah.
You know, he
Just
gives
tell you what you need to know
Yeah.
on a need to
On a
know
need to know
basis.
basis. Yeah.
But the only problem I have with him is that he appears too much on television. You just draw back a bit,
Yeah.
you know.
But yes, with the new IG, yeah, I think
That
we
is
wish we
that's
wish him
our
well.
story.
Yeah.
So what do we say between the Standard
yes.
and the Star, which is our winning headline? I think today
I would
we
go
do
with the
have
Standard.
a
I go
winning
with the Standard
headline.
as well.
I take it as well. Speculative,
Yeah.
but
we toss-
groundbreaking. We toss the Star.
Yeah.
All right. Yes.
And this is our winning headline: the Standard 2022 plan for Uhuru Raila to form alliance.
All right.
Yeah.
On to our next segment, the political opinions that we call cartoons in this country. And just like our headlines, we have a 3-part criteria that
Yeah.
we use to break them down for you. Let me
Yeah.
bring back our papers. We ask ourselves, are they humorous or are they dry?
Yeah.
Are they satirical or are they pessimistic? And finally, are they effective or just plain lazy? I see you've opened the
already
Star.
Here, there's a guy who looks very short. Like, he looks like Napoleon, but modern day Napoleon.
Yeah, modern day
Yeah, I
Napoleon,
agree.
whose name is very clear.
Yeah, he's on a white horse, and he's got this explorer look like.
I think it's the uniform that
Yeah, it's the
Napoleon
uniform,
wore.
yeah.
uniform, but he's riding towards a Chinese-infested Africa.
With a baton that's a baguette.
He says, we are going there.
And what is he saying? Shh, I'm here to recover lost ground. I think this is fantastic.
I love this.
You are the one who's very...
I love this.
You have doubts about the French.
Oh, most definitely. I have such doubts about their intentions.
No, I completely agree.
Yeah.
Is it? I think it was Jacques Chirac that said, without Africa,
Yeah.
France would slide down to the depths of
a third world country.
And that is because they have retained quite a strong hold on their francophone former colonies.
Yes, they've held the reserves, they've held the bank reserves, the financial reserves, the national reserves of at least 14 nations, including Senegal, Ivory Coast, Benin, Mali, Togo, Niger, Equatorial Guinea, and Central African Republic.
Yeah. And it's not to say that those specific countries aren't flourishing.
Yeah. But they are, but their reserves are out of their country.
But I think it's fair to say that they are also struggling nations. And I think that has been under the watchful eye of the French. So what does that bode for East Africa?
But also, why has he come back if he's been keeping the reserves? Is he trying to tell us that they're broke again and he's coming to increase the reserves that they need? They need more.
But guys, isn't this the best time to be an African?
Yes, it is.
I feel very proud.
Yeah, they're flirting with us. I'm like, it's okay, let's do it.
So the French are flirting with us commercially?
Yeah.
And then Trump agreed to what the Ethiopians have been saying.
Absolutely.
To ground that 737-8 MAX.
He was actually triggered by the Ethiopians. You know?
Everyone was triggered by the Ethiopians because the Ethiopians started from a point of safety.
But for the first time, an American product has been made to look like it has Ebola. You know, 737 MAX 8.
How do you come up with these things?
They have been quarantined. It's like they are sick. You stay there because you'll infect other people.
Or don't fly over our space. And I think that is a good thing to be African. We've been recognized. One, we've been recognized for our potential, our commercial potential as buyers, not as slaves. And two, we've been recognized for our ability to make good judgment calls.
But what a time to be alive.
Oh, what a time to be an African.
I think we're showing our bias. So shall we look at the other cartoons?
So I think we're
putting this in the parking bay. We do like it. We like it a lot, in fact, if there's anything. We like it a lot, but put it in the parking bay. Just hold on to it.
All right.
Let's see what these others portend for us. Okay.
The nation.
Who's this wearing an orange pajamas?
I thought this was so funny.
Oh, it looks like Baba.
Have you guys ever watched Ghostbusters?
Yes, I have.
And how they go with
that's so true.
Yeah, he's come to. What do they call it? They call it fumigate.
Fumigator, exterminator.
Yeah. Oh, so he's come to
There's
fumigate.
a big orange that has worms in it.
Worms cannot be eaten, huh?
So let me ask you guys this: if we're going with the fumigator idea, is he going to kill the worms inside, or is he going to end up killing the orange itself?
That's a very good question. Because how far can you go with
Then what are you left with?
You're left with nothing. And I think that's the thought that he is grappling with. Because if you see him, he's not sure what to do.
And the rebel worm is coming for him.
Oh yeah, the rebel worm as well. Speaking out loud, saying haughty things.
I really like his pajamas, huh?
I do like them. So what do you think about this? Is it effective?
I actually like it. I had not seen it the way you said it.
It's humorous, yes.
It is humorous.
It
is it satirical?
It is.
Yes.
It meets all the criteria.
It does.
But it has a tough... Today we have a tough battle then. Okay then, parking bay as well.
Bay.
But good job, Monene.
Oh yeah, good job, Monene, most definitely.
Good job.
Okay, Gado.
Finally.
I don't know why I laughed when I saw this thing.
I
laughed at this one as well.
It is hilarious.
But it was a sad laugh.
It's a sad laugh. Though I do agree that it shows the point.
Yeah.
It's a confession, but the tables are turned.
Tables are turned. Who's giving the confession?
Giving the confession is someone who would appear to be the Pope.
The Pope.
Giving a confession to a young boy inside who is very skeptical
about this
prayer
confession.
he's making.
Very skeptical.
And this boy
crossed
looks
arms,
like an African.
upturned eye.
Yeah, he might be an African.
He's
So
an
I think the
African.
context of this is the constant accusations that come out
against the Catholic Church.
Yeah, against the Catholic Church and the abuse that happens to young
and the
boys.
validation of this abuse by them having a sexual harassment conference earlier this year. I think in February they did.
Yeah, Pope Francis is the first Pope who has acknowledged the widespread sexual abuse that goes on in the Catholic Church.
Right.
So
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't know. I do like it. It's funny.
I think your
but
issue
my
with it,
issue with it today was that it wasn't grounded in anything that happened in the media, at least in our media.
So not necessarily topical.
It wasn't necessarily topical.
Yeah.
But that's not a criteria that we have for the cartoons.
Yeah.
And there was a Washington Post article that is relevant to this, and that showed that the abuse was widespread in Boston.
Yeah. Right.
And the Attorney General of Pennsylvania was the one who was the main source of that article, and he gave interesting things that he said, like for instance that mirror this is that he said that victims were being forced by the father to give a forced confession after they have been abused and violated, which I thought was very sad.
Yeah.
So this is the table's turn.
We've said this many times about Gado. He's an international cartoonist.
And he has a global perspective, and I accept his perspective. And for that perspective, this cartoon is punchy.
Yeah,
it's effective, it's humorous, and it is...
Today is a tough day.
And it is satirical.
What's going on?
Okay, so we have to make a
Everyone
determination.
is inspired.
Everyone has stepped up.
Okay.
So which is the next one?
That's it. Well, now we're deciding.
If I was to be honest, I would strike Monene out.
Really?
Yeah, I would. I would go for Gado versus...
If I was honest, I would stick Gado out for today, as much as I like him.
Why?
For relevancy, like in the
Context for today.
Context.
But that's not... We don't have that
We
criteria.
all know the Pope is sorry.
Do we have a three-way tie, maybe? I don't know.
No, but we don't have a criteria. We don't have a criteria for relevance.
Yeah.
It doesn't have to be topical. It's an opinion.
I'm going to propose a three-way tie. I think today has been tough, and there are just three different perspectives that have been hit at, all relevant in their own way.
I find this one funny as well, because if you contrast it with the headline.
I think today we should give Monene has tried. Especially when explaining the way you did. Fantastic.
Okay then, I'm gonna go with the a three-way tie. I am being vetoed from off the set. Okay, it's a three-way tie between Monene, Gado, and Victor.
All right.
And there you have it.
Yep.
All three cartoons are winning cartoons in a first on Winning Headlines. And there you have it. That's it for today. This is Winning Headlines. See you again tomorrow.